Okay, everybody, so in the first video we talked about the general user interface, what the different buttons and such did, and how to basically get into a breakout. In this video I'm going to talk a lot more about how to move from the main room to the breakouts and back, because the platform's strength really is to be able to do something like go into a group of dyad exercises, come back to the main room, do a share back, and then go back into another small group exercise. So we're going to kind of go through how that works. As you can see here, I've got 5 dyads set up, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the dyads for us, and we'll get our participant in there. I'm going to go ahead and put myself in there too, because the first thing I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the differences between the views here. So this is the facilitator view of a breakout, and as I mentioned in the first video, you've got some additional controls up here that a participant doesn't have. The breakout buttons are very similar to the ones in the main room. You've got your mute and unmute for audio and video, your chat button. This button allows you to switch views between what's called the tile view and a focus view, so you can see somebody bigger. That button allows you to refresh in case there's a problem. And then you've got the arrow buttons, takes you into full screen mode, so you can see everything and kind of get all the clutter out of the way. And if you'll notice, the participant, this is the participant view, they have the same buttons as you do on the facilitator side. Also on the participants, they have the button to hang up, and they have the little settings button here that kind of does the same thing that the main room settings button does. However, on the facilitator side, you've got a couple of extra things here. There's a couple extra controls you'll see as a facilitator that the participants won't see. So the status indicator you'll see, this is the event lock thing that allows you to know if the event is locked or not. This button allows you to speak to everybody, and I'll show you that feature a little bit later. And your settings button has a couple of extra settings that allows you to get into the event administration menu if you need to, and also to do things like close the user list, etc. So that's some of the differences between the participant view and the facilitator view and breakouts. As a facilitator, I'm going to get myself back into the breakout list here, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you can see what's going on inside the breakouts. So first thing is, how do you know who's in what breakout? There's a couple ways to know that. The first is any of these pictures over here, you can just simply hover over it. You can see where my mouse is. If you hover over it, you'll see the name of the person that's in the breakout. So if you imagine these breakouts are all full, you can just go ahead and hover over each icon and know who's in each breakout. That's one way to do it. Probably the more efficient way to do it, if you look in the little mini breakout list that's always up here, whether you're in a breakout or not, you can see that next to dyad number 1, there's a little number 1 in parentheses. That lets you know there's one person currently in that breakout. And if you hover over the number, you'll get a pop-up list of all the people in that breakout. So those are the two ways to kind of know who is in the breakout. Now you know kind of who's in the breakout. You may want to. There's missing one other thing to show you guys. So if you're a facilitator, and if there's any facilitators that aren't in a breakout, and you can see here where it says facilitator available there, that means that there's at least one facilitator not in a breakout. If that's the case, then as a participant in a breakout, they have this extra button that allows them to raise their hand so they can ask for help. If they do press that button as a participant on the facilitator side, you're going to see this big old indicator lights up here to let you know somebody wants to ask a question. And in the list of breakouts, you're going to see there's an orange hand button next to the breakout where the person raised their hand. You can click that button where it says, if you hover over it, it says join to help, and you'll actually be able to join the breakout to help them. And that's always available, even if they haven't raised their hand. There's the green button there. If you hover over it, it says join to help. You can always join a breakout, even if it's full with that functionality. So that's one way that the people in breakouts can communicate to you. Another way you can work with breakouts is you can actually do what's called peeking, and that's this orange button here. So with joining, you're actually joining the breakout itself. You can see that I'm actually fully joined the breakout. Let me close that again. However, with peeking, with the peek button, if I click there, I just get a preview. It's kind of I'd call it a preview maybe, but it actually is like you're actually seeing and hearing everything that's happening in the breakout, but they can't see or hear you. So if there were 2 or 3 people in here, you would see all their audio, all their video feeds, and you would hear everything that they're saying. And on the participant side, there is kind of a subtle indicator that lets them know that you're listening in. There's this little, look at my mouse circling here around this stethoscope, that lets them know that somebody's listening in. They can even hover over it and get the name of the person that's listening. So So it's sort of the virtual equivalent if you were doing an exercise of dyads in a regular room, in a physical room full of people. This is kind of like the virtual equivalent of you being able to walk around the room. You can just peek into these different rooms here and be able to kind of get a sense of the room, see what's happening. And on their side, as you're peeking in, they know you're doing that because they see this little stethoscope up here. So that is something about how to get to know who's in which breakout, and some of the different ways you can either join or have a look in to see what's going on. Now, those are all ways you're looking in. Now, what if you need to give them instructions? Well, there's another feature for that, which is up here. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, and you're a facilitator, you'll have this button. It's like a little picture of a megaphone. If you hover over it, it says Speak to All. So now if I click that, and the button will turn orange. When it's orange, that means that when I speak, everybody in every breakout is going to be able to hear me. Actually, even if they're not in the breakouts, everybody will hear you when that button is on. And from the participant side, what that looks like is they get a little preview, like a little image of you in the corner up here, and they can see that and hear you. So that's a great way, when that's on, to be able to give instructions like switch partners or start to wrap up that section of the exercise, etc. And then when you're done speaking to everybody, you click the button again, it goes gray, and you can see your picture disappears and back to where you were. So we've talked about now being able to look in and being able to help and being able to give instructions. That's all the sort of ways of handling things as the breakouts are happening. Now, what do you need to do if when it's time for people to come from the breakouts back to the main room? So there's a couple of different options you have. The first one you've already seen. You can just click the megaphone button and say, hey, everybody, start to wrap up your shares, come back to the main room in maybe a minute. That's one option you have. Another option you have, if you click the event settings button there, there's a selection here for send a message to the breakouts. So that, you've got a drop-down menu here where you've got sort of, I call them like little templates. So you can select a template, it'll just sort of give you a pre-selected thing. This one says come back to the main room in 30 seconds. Or you don't need a template at all, you can just type your own thing. You know, hey, come back soon. So when you type that in, you click send message. And then from the participant side, you'll see they get a little pop-up message that lets them know whatever you need them to know. So those are your two ways to sort of be able to communicate with people as they're in breakouts. Now, as far as actually bringing them back, there's a fairly simple way to do that. So here you are in the main list, or you could even be in a breakout, doesn't really matter. And here's a participant in the breakouts, and you've told them to come back. And you're going to do what's called opening back the main room or closing the breakout. So if you click the settings button and select close breakouts, then that will bring the main room back up. And once the main room is back up, then you're going to see your video, and anybody else who's not in breakouts anymore is going to be in the main room just like you always are. If you notice participant 1 here, though, his video is muted because he is still in a breakout. And he's going to get a very specific view to let him know that it's like the main room is back open, it's time to move on. And that view looks like this. So this is what somebody sees when you open the main room back up and they are still in their breakout. On the right-hand side is their breakout. And if they're in there with 2 or 3 people, they can see and hear themselves just fine and keep going. And on the left-hand side, there's the view of the main room. You can see it's kind of dimmed a little bit, and there's an instruction here to say that kind of encourages them to close the breakout and go back to the main room. They can hear the main room volume, but it's lower than the volume of their breakout. So it's just sort of this transitional suggestion that they can keep going for a little bit, but also to kind of pull them back into the main room with everybody else. So I'm showing you this to kind of encourage you, like, you don't need to wait until, if I come back over to the facilitator view, you don't have to wait until everybody's out of a breakout when you're transitioning back to the main room. You know, once you're ready to go, just go ahead and open the main room up. They'll get this split view, they'll be able to wrap up, and they'll get back to the main room when they're ready. Now, let's talk a little bit about if people don't come back, or if you want to be able to kick users out for whatever reason. So there's a couple of different ways to do that. I'm going to go ahead and reopen the breakouts. Again, let's do this real quick, just to show you the one. So let's put that participant back in a breakout. So here you are, and you need to kick just this user out. Here's the user in the breakout, and you want to kick them out for whatever reason. They're having a technology problem. There's another user you don't want to put in there, and they're not coming out. So the way to kick them out is you hover over their icon, you double click on it, and you'll see they get kicked out of the breakout. On their side, they get kicked out and they're back into the place where they can choose a breakout. So that's one way to kick a user out. I'm going to put them back in to show you the other way. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and get back into that situation where we had the main room open. So I'm going to close breakouts. You'll see here we are in the main room. Here's the participant in their little split screen view to let them know, hey, it's about time to come back, start to wrap up. And if they're not coming back, there's another way you can kick out everybody in a breakout. So that is next to all the way to the right in this list of breakouts for each one. If there's somebody in a breakout, you see here's the one person in that breakout. All the way to the right, there's this gray button. It's a little icon of a user with an X by it. And that's the button where you can kick everybody in that breakout out. So if you click that, everybody in that breakout will get kicked out of the breakout. And they'll get kicked back into the main room just like that. So now that you're back in the main room, of course, you're in a situation where you can take sharebacks, or you can go straight into another exercise if you want. If you were going to do another dyad exercise, you could leave these dyads open and just go straight into another one. Or if you want to do a different exercise, say now you're going to do a triad exercise, you can use the delete all button to knock down those breakouts and to create a new set of breakouts. We'll create triads this time. And now you've got them back up, and you can go straight back into some of the stuff I talked about in the first video. Let people choose a breakout again. So there's the person choosing a breakout, open it up, and round you go. So that should basically give you guys the additional things necessary to be able to work with the breakouts. There is one other thing I want to point out that I just realized that I missed, and it's pretty easy to see. So imagine you have a long list of breakouts here and 20 users in the room, and you're in this choice mode, and people are picking, and there's a couple people that haven't picked. Well, how do you know who hasn't picked? So it's pretty easy to know who's in the breakouts. You can hover over here, or if you see the breakout list, you can hover over their users' names there. But there's another little feature that's kind of subtle, and if you look over here in the user list, you can see where my mouse is moving next to this participant's name. Just to the left of it, there's a little green diamond, and that green diamond lets you know that user is in a breakout. If you look at my username above, you'll see I don't have that little green diamond there. So that is a way, if there's, say, a list of 20 users here, you can just glance down there, and everybody who has a diamond is in a breakout, and the folks who don't have a diamond aren't in a breakout. So it kind of lets you quickly determine who is and who isn't in a breakouts for just sort of, herding the cattle kind of use. So, and I think that's the very last thing that I hadn't shown you guys. It's very, very useful. I'm hoping that with this information, you guys will feel more at ease to be able to use the breakouts, because we've gotten a lot of feedback from people that they really like the dyads and small group exercises, and it helps them drop in a way that just being in a circle doesn't. So the platform is designed to be able to come in and out of these small groups, and with this knowledge, I'm hoping you'll start to do more of that. Thanks.